Hello everyone, Insane Frame here, welcome back to another video. In the last video I did the 20k special doing Fallout 4 as a doggo with dog meat by our side. It was really special and it was something a little bit different from the usual and the bite attack was really strong. However, in today's video we're doing a highly requested run, which is can you beat Fallout 4 as Kellogg? Now Kellogg is the enforcer for the Institute and the main right hand of the main antagonist, and he's armed with a 44 Magnum. So yeah, it's going to be a good time, but before we face Kellogg we'll have no armor. His outfit is the only thing we'll be able to use, but it's going to be fun, so let's get on with the rules. We may only use what Kellogg can use. No glitch or exploits, and we're going to be playing on very hard difficulty. So with that all out the way, let's start the playthrough. We go to character creation. It feels weird looking at Kellogg Kornflakes this early on, but sure thing. We then had to decide our stats, although not really, as Kellogg Kornflakes stats are 4 across the board, and of course our name is Conrad Kellogg. We go with Kellogg for short. We then get frozen and we see our doppelganger, and he does our job for us, so we can now become the scourge of the waste. So when we get the Pip Boy and open up the vault, we get to see the outside. We immediately just go outside Sanctuary Hills and go near the river and follow a pipe to get some caps, and right next to the caps our weapon of choice, which is a 44 Snubnose. We go see Wolfgang and shoot Trudy in the head so she ain't getting up again, and we have to spread the chaos, which feels kind of weird. Anyway, we run towards a good neighbor, and on our way we find Tales of a Junktown jerky vendor. It's simply the best, ladies and gentlemen. And when we hit good neighbor, we level up and we decide to go for Fortune Finder so we can find caps in containers, a staple perk for us, and it will make sure we can buy lots of ammo this run. Speaking of which, we go to Diamond City and we meet Eleanor. She sells us plenty of ammo, so we get over 60 rounds that we can use now, which is very good for this stage of the game. For some early caps, we go into the hardware shop and kill all the raiders without too much of an issue, and then we get some green paint that allows us to hand it into Abbott in Diamond City. When we do, we get some spare caps, so we go on over to Trash Can Carla, but we have the option to rob, and she talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk and ends up 6 feet under. Silly Carla didn't take us seriously. Who do you think you are, Carla? We also level up and decide to get Gunslinger, so we do 20% more damage whilst using our 44 Magnum. It's then time for a stroll into the Triggermen hideout, and we just obliterate the Triggermen using hit and run tactics, chipping away at the Triggermen. And by job, we even get a level up for our troubles, and we go for Lone Wanderer, so we take 15% less damage and increase our carry weight by 50. What a lovely perk. Lastly, we do a bit of an ammo run and we buy all our ammo from Eleanor and head back in. We then get to Nick Valentine. However, Dino is tougher than most Triggermen, so rather than fight him, we let him run away, as apparently his name is in a black book and been struck 3 times, which is enough for him to run away, letting us hack a novice terminal and spring Nick free. However, once we do, we level up and we go ahead and get Fortune Finder rank 2, so we find even more caps in containers than the previous rank. We tackle many of the Triggermen with Nick. It's pretty easy thanks to our snub nose, and we take them out with no quarrel, which is simply excellent. Once Skinny is met, we kill his first Triggerman and target Darla, and the second henchman is in our sights, which is funny, and Darla then gets pistol whipped. As for Skinny, we use VATS but decide to 2-tap him. This is probably the closest fight we've had against Skinny, but taking his henchman out makes it that much easier, so we're all good. We meet Nick Valentine outside. He drops us an invite to his office. However, first we sell all of our stuff and go get more ammo from Eleanor, as she is quite the merchant for us. Thank you, Eleanor, you are excellent. Now having over 300 rounds, we are all set with our weapon. We decide to go and find the railroad, so we go to the basement of the Old North Church and remove all the ghouls, no problem, and then we meet Desdemona. We are very skeptical as she threatens us, but don't worry Desdemona, your time will come. So we go ahead and walk away, but we level up and we go for an unusual perk and get awareness, so we can see the target's damage resistance in VATS. Brilliant. It's off to good neighbor and we go ahead and meet Whitechapel Charlie. He's quite the fellow and charming as always, and we take on a job that he's offering and head off to clear out the Triggermen safe houses. After we clear each of the safe houses out, we get more ammo from the weaponry and most importantly some experience as well as some caps. But we get a level up, so we're level 7 and we decide to go with Gunslinger rank 2, so our weapon now does 40% more damage and we get increased range, which is extremely useful, especially for long range play. Anywho, we use our extra ammo and caps to buy, you guessed it, more ammo from Eleanor, as that's all we can really spend our caps on, but having lots of ammo would definitely be a huge help, as it never hurts to have it after all, ladies and gentlemen. So we fast travel to Concord and go through the civic access to go underneath the sewers and have a Mirelurk and some mole rats. Nothing too serious, but it's all things we can take out no problem. We go back to Diamond City and see the mayor's secretary. She gets her brains blown out, but it turns out she's an immortal NPC. So we decide just to take the house keys by breaking into the desk, which is fair enough. We go and see Nick and he mentions us and says he has a case with us. Okay. He then decides he wants to break into our house. Yeah, this is very strange behaviour from you, Nick, but thank you for getting our house in order. We decide to greet Dogmeat and leave him be and sit and rest in our house for a little bit. We then go to our arms dealer, Eleanor, to buy even more ammo from her. Thank you, Eleanor. After our preparations, we decide to go to Fort Hagen from Concord, and on our way we level up. We decide to go with the good old reliable perk that is Bloody Mess, which gives plus 5% damage across the board, nice and simple. We do the standard of shooting our own security turrets, and when they're all down, we begin assassinating our own forces to keep them on their toes. They can always produce more robots for us to destroy, but we do our cloak and dagger tactics to get lots of sneak attacks off, allowing us to trivialise the forces here. We really need more courses going invisible, but still, it's a lot of fun for us. When we get to Fate Kellogg, he is actually fairly tough. It takes a dozen attempts, but eventually he gets a bullseye straight through his head, and when his head is struck, we pretty much decapitate him, so he's not coming back to haunt us. Overall, our security was poor, and Fate Kellogg was more than a match for us, but he's been replaced and kept saying about Sean, which is strange, but when we check his computer, he's successfully been kidnapped, and he didn't think to delete it or anything. Anyway, we go outside and we see the Brotherhood is still show up. Not really our problem. We decide to go to Concord to the Museum of Freedom, and when we're there, we enter and take out half the raiders at the entrance, as Preston can't even fight them. And when we decide to go ahead and kill the remaining raiders, we go ahead and tell the Minutemen what we think. Once up on the roof, we decide to go ahead and snipe the raiders with our pistol, which does wonders, which is fantastic. It might do reduced damage at range, but hey, damage is still damage and it gets the job done for us. However, once the Minutemen move to Sanctuary Hills, we decide to go ahead and upgrade the receiver in our pistol, as it requires no perks and seems like a good idea. So we go ahead and get the upgrade, netting even more damage for us from this beautiful gun. If you can't tell by now, this is one of my personal favourite guns in Fallout 4. But when we go to Nick's office, this doesn't really make any sense, as we've taken out baked Kellogg Kornflakes and we are the real bowl of cereal, the greatest, as a certain tiger would say. But Nick then skips the confusion and goes to the memory den. However, when we do the memory sequence, we find out that the Institute wiped our memory and rediscover our mission, so we have to go and find Brian Virgil. But since we still don't know how to return to the Institute, he's our best hope of returning. We say our goodbyes to the do-gooders and decide to go look for Virgil, as he was part of our last mission after all, so it's off to the glowing sea. When we get to the glowing sea, we sneak inside Virgil's hideout, and Virgil's glasses aren't working, as we are clearly Kellogg, and he thinks fake Kellogg is after him, but he's our only ticket to report him back to our boss. So we decide to go against our original orders and help Virgil kill a Corsair to hijack the signal, so we can use the teleporter once more with our somewhat shaky gentleman's agreement. When we get to Green Tech Genetics, we end up meeting these mercenaries, and they aren't as bad as people say. We just take them out like any other raider, multiple headshots and lots of damage. It really isn't that bad, but when we meet the Corsair, it's much easier than expected, as we can just lay on the damage against them, no sweat, and once we plant more rounds into them, they're done for. It's nice to know these things are easy to destroy, and the Institute have a lot of work to do if they want effective hunters. But we get the Corsair chip and we go to the North Church, and since they were kind enough to reveal themselves earlier, we start off with Drummer Boy, who then gets shot at and we get a level up from. So we put our 2 level up thanks to the Gunners and the Corsair, and now Drummer Boy into toughness, getting us 2 ranks of it, so we now have plus 20 damage resistance, though we're that much harder to kill. And as for the rest of the railroad, we begin to fall back, taking shots at them, and we manage to beat Desdemona no problem, as she gets headshotted, and we fall back to the church and we do a boss fight where we're the boss and Deacon is unfortunate enough to get taken out. He then has a sidekick, a nameless agent. However, Gloria shows up packing some serious firepower, and we decide to shoot her from up high, chipping away at her and gradually whittling her health down. However, we then go low, doing more damage on the ground, destroying her as she comes down the stairs, ending any further resistance from the railroad. Then we go into the HQ and everyone just gets slaughtered as we carve through them like a hot knife through butter. When everything settles, Tinker Tom's terminal is accessed, so we then decode the Corsair chip ourselves. We then return to Virgil and he has the blueprints for us, and when we exit, we level up. We go for Life Giver, so we get plus 20 HP. Not amazing, but certainly an okay perk. We get back to the Minutemen and talk to Preston Garvey, and he says that a settlement needs our help, so we go to 10 Pines Bluff and eliminate everyone so it can't be used. Then we are promoted to General for some reason, so we just go ahead and build the teleporter. And once we do, Sturgis has a speech, but we decide to say goodbye and head on in. Once we're inside, we descend the lift and we come face to face with the Shawn robot, and Senor Potato is revealed. When we speak to Senor Potato, he reveals he is our son. Shocking. However, we are tasked with meeting each of the Institute heads, so we do so, and when we're all good, we decide to go back and speak to Father. He then gives us our first mission, which is to go and retrieve a simp from a raider gang. So we're back in the employ of the Institute again. However, we also level up and we go for rank 2 of Life Giver, giving us another 20 HP. Not great, but it will help when we need it. We meet X6 and we head out to find this Gabriel fellow, so we take out a few razors from range, sniping them accordingly, and when we manage to take a small handful of them out, it's time to climb up to the ship. We use the line attached to the back of the ship and we manage to get in no problem and board the vessel, killing some raiders on board. Then we go ahead and converse with the Corsair and then take to reasoning with Gabriel, but he's too far gone and the Corsair does its job and neutralizes the simp as we kill both raiders without a second thought. With the mission accomplished, we head back and report to Father, and we get awarded some quarters from Father and we inspect them, which seems good. We have a level up and we decide to get awareness rank 2, so we get plus 5% damage and hit chance whilst in VATS, which is always handy, so good stuff. Father then tasks us with taking Bunker Hill, and we will meet up with a Corsair and we decide to simply go back and run around to get into the side door. The railroad have some agents that we take out when we get to the basement of Bunker Hill, and when we get there we decide to take out the forces accordingly, including a Brotherhood Night Sergeant wielding a minigun. But when they're taken out wonderfully, we take out a couple of turrets, and when they're gone we punish all of the simps by sending them back to the Institute, and we leave them in the Corsair's care. After that whole spiel, we decide to visit our trusty ammo supplier Eleanor and stock up on ammo. She knows her stuff and we now have over 999 ammo, a first on these challenge runs. We then go speak to Father atop the ruins, and he said that he made fake Kellogg all along to test us and that he was curious as to what the real thing could do. However, we passed all his expectations and he allows us to sit on the next meeting. So when we get to the meeting, Father says he's dying and we are named his next successor, which is brilliant. However, we also meet Father after the meeting and he says the job is officially ours. Also, we level up, so we go ahead and get Gunslinger rank 3, so we do 60% more damage for our 44 Magnum and have increased range. However, we speak to Ali Fillmore and she says that she needs the Beryllium Agitator. She says that she's not thrilled going up to the top, so we just simply say she's not going. She's insulted by that. However, she has never met a Brotherhood Knight, so it's best she stays here. We get a prompt say if we want to teleport to the mass fusion building, which of course we do, we will be enemies with the Brotherhood, which is fair enough. A legendary Brotherhood Knight is about, so we deal with them and they do pose a challenge, but ultimately they bite the dust. And then the section being led by the Knight is destroyed as we headshot them one by one and they all go down. As for the lift, we descend and we have a headshot bonanza as we shoot most of Brotherhood of Steel members in the face, making the most of our offense to be a great defense. Anybody that pops up, they are just shot. But then they decide to sabotage the elevator like the clever clogs they are, and got to give them credit where credit is due. But we shoot a couple more and get it running again and just simply avoid the Knight as much as possible and make a run for the lift. We get down the lift and then we take out more forces, no issues, and go to the second lift and get to the reactor. When we approach the reactor, we take some Rad-X and go on inside. We even have to take 2 doses of Radway to get us more time whilst obtaining the Beryllium Agitator. Once we're out, we go in the decontamination chamber and stay there to fight a legendary sentry bot. We did get a little unlucky here, however we cheese it by shooting the sentry bot in its blind spot and eventually the Titan falls. However, the 2 Assaultrons take several attempts, but we manage to shoot their legs out with VATS, and with both of them down, we just run out of their range and keep shooting until they are both destroyed, making this an easy enough win. We get to the main plaza, then outside, and we teleport back to the Institute and see Father. Although we only just got back, he wants us to go out and settle dispute, as the Institute have run into problems. So it's back outside we go, but before we do that we have a level up, so we decide to go ahead and get Medic, so Stimpaks and Radaway now restore 40% of our health and radiation damage. It's absolutely brilliant, so couldn't hurt to have this perk. But once we get outside, we see our fellow has employed gunners. We've dealt with these before, so we sneak attack one of them and use the bridge support as cover. They close in on us, and we can now just get some clean shots on them, so we can clean this up in a jiffy. Once done, we try to convince the man who's locked himself in a room, and we run out of dialogue options, so Synth is teleported in, and it kind of goes pear-shaped, but for wasting our time, the guy gets put on the table and we bash him with our pistol for not being compliant. Shame on him for forgetting his manners. When we go to speak to Father, he lets us perform a speech, and we make sure it's nice and relatively positive, minding our manners of course, and then we go over to Diamond City to fix the radio station. Once that's fixed, we go ahead and join Father at the reactor and place the beryllium agitator and initiate the sequence to wake up the reactor for the first time. Afterwards, we go ahead and get to chair the next meeting, which is fantastic. We also level up and decide to go for Lone Wanderer rank 2, reducing damage done to us by 30% and increase our carry weight by 100. So excellent perk for us, and once we're there, we are brought up to speed and it is time to attack the Brotherhood of Steel. So we decide to increase synth production and get more boots on the ground, and then we speak to Father and he says that we've already dealt with the railroad, so we can move on to the Brotherhood of Steel, which is most excellent. We go ahead and speak to Dr. Lee. She says we need to take out the emitters to teleport some of our reinforcements in, and we also need to weaken the enemies, so we have our work cut out for us. When we begin our assault on the Brotherhood base, we eliminate a couple of turrets and run for it. Then we start working on the patrols in the area to thin out their numbers and have a side we can work with on assaulting the base. It's not long before we can get a section down and we can move on in. We got more to security down, which is good, and in the process get a level up. We decide to go for medic rank 2, so we now restore 60% our lost health with Stimpact and remove 60% of our radiation with Radaway, really helping us out. We shoot Quinlan, which is unfortunate, and we start clearing out the vertibird pad. It doesn't take long before we come in and start shooting faces and taking out personnel. We get the last little tidbit done, which involves taking the last section of the platoon down, and we're all cleared to start teleporting reinforcements in, deep striking the enemy base very effectively, with a platoon of forces all coming in. We then assault Liberty Prime, taking shots at Prospector Ingram. I'm sorry Ingram, you are awesome, but you have to die, but you will die as an opponent, not an enemy. Anywho, once Ingram is dead, we begin defending Prime, and like a fool, I fall off the platform, but get back up, and before you know it, we upload the virus, and Prime begins to destroy the Pridwin, and we get a front row seat through the whole thing. We leg it out of there and get teleported out, and the debris and the destruction in front of us is a job well done. Everything is fine now, as the Institute is now on top and under our leadership. We go see Father, and he says that he would like to sleep, knowing that we can take it from here, ending the run, answering the question, can you beat Fallout 4's Kellogg Kornflakes? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. It's actually a hell of a lot of fun. Well, that is another run using the 44 Magnum. I have to admit, the snub nose in the beginning wasn't the best, but for a starter gun, it was amazing and packed a punch. However, I definitely think that Kellogg was a bit of a roadblock and the toughest part of the run, but once he was dealt with, it was smooth sailing from there, as his gun is fantastic, a legendary variant of the 44 Magnum, so what's not to love? But yeah, our next video is going to be, can you beat XCOM 2 with a single spark, which will be very interesting as that game is amazing, and we're also going to be doing a couple of things outside of YouTube, which is drawing closer and closer, so that'll be very interesting. So all that, thanks for watching. Hope you like the video, if you like the video, and if you want to comment down below even to say hello or how'd you do, that would be cool, and subscribe if you're new. I've been Insane Frame. Please look after yourselves and have an amazing day and a fantastic evening, you beautiful people. You all make this channel wonderful, and I shall see you in the next one. This is Insane Frames, signing off. Have a good day, everyone.